Good morning. Today is 17 November, the year 2008. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in California. Part of our mission is to record and preserve the history of our country's military conflicts. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in those conflicts. Today, I'm here at the museum, along with special guest Connell, and today we have the honor and the privilege of interviewing Commander Wayne Connell. Commander Connell was a fighter pilot in the U.S. Navy from 1954 to 1975, flying F-4s among other aircraft in Vietnam. So we're going to talk to him about that and a lot of other things. Wayne, so good to have you here.
A pleasure to be here.
Okay. Now let me get you lined up here.
As long as it's okay if I lie a little bit.
That's fine with me. Yeah, I'm ready for some sea stories. Okay, Wayne, tell me, first of all, would you spell your full name for us, please?
Earl W. Connell, that's E-A-R-L, that's W-A-Y-N-E, and C-O-N-N-E-L-L.
Okay, and when and where were you born?
10 and 1534 in Anson, Texas.
Anson, Texas.
A little country town, little farming community, about 3,000 people and so forth, right close to Abilene, if you know anything about where Abilene is.
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, from the cowboy movies I used to see, there was always having a shootout in Abilene or something like that. So, and your dad, what was his name? Earl
Monroe Connell.
Okay, and what did he do?
He was he ran the school system for the town.
Oh,
Superintendent.
Superintendent.
Actually, for the county.
For the county, yeah. County superintendent. And how did he end up in Texas? Where did your ancestors all come from?
Out of a family of 12, 9 survived and so forth, and they were basically preachers or teachers and so forth and so forth. And he came out and didn't ever finish his doctorate, but got out to Anson, Texas, and spent the rest of his life running the schools in Anson, Texas.
Now, what about his dad? Did he live in Texas too, your grandfather?
Up in the northeast corner, and with a family of 12, with 9 of which lived.
But and how did that whole family end up in Texas? Where did they come from back east, or they come from?
Yeah, they traced the family all the way to the East Coast, but it was over. We've got a whole basket load of
Arkansas.
Well, it came over from Arkansas.
But they had come, yeah.
And so forth, but they actually came all the way from the East Coast.
Connell, is that an Irish name that you have, Connell?
Probably so, but at the present time we had enough preachers in it, and we were Protestants as opposed to Catholic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's Northern Ireland has a lot of Protestants up there too. And your mother, what was her name and her maiden name? Vashti
Hale Connell.
How do you spell that?
H-A-L-E. Vashti, V-A-S-H-I-T-I.
I don't know that I've heard that.
That's a biblical name.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what did she do in the Bible?
Don't have a slightest idea.
Must have been pretty good, or they probably would have named her that. And what did her dad do?
Farmers.
They were farmers.
Both sides.
And where did your mom and dad meet?
Up in the northeast corner of Texas, where they both were raised.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And did you have any brothers and sisters?
I have one brother. Still have him.
What is his name?
He's been he's a retired professor.
And what's his name?
Teach pure mathematics. If you ever, not applied mathematics, but very few, relatively few, and extremely well known in his work.
Was he younger or older than you?
Older.
And what was his name?
Edwin Hale.
Mm-hmm. Did he go into service also?
No, he didn't have to.
And
He was in an accident.
He was. He had an accident or something, so they could.
He got hit in the head. He got hit by a car on the road when he was a freshman in college, and changed his life, and so forth.
And so did you grow up on a farm?
No, in a little town.
In the
Of course,
little town.
Yeah, a little town.
Do you remember the street you lived on? The address?
Oh, what was the address, sweetie?
Avenue I,
Avenue I. I don't remember the number.
across from a mortuary.
Across the street from the mortuary.
Yeah, and so you were born in '34. That was just kind of, the Depression was kind of easing, I think, at that point probably. But did your parents have any problems during the Depression, like a lot of people did?
Dad, and of course he signed all the checks that were going through. They probably had, what, 15, 20 people, 20 teachers, maybe 30, 20, 30 teachers and so forth and so forth. And he told this story so many times that in the middle of the real financial world and so forth, he said, he put on every one of those checks, he says, this check is to have and to hold. And they didn't have it. And nobody was ever going to bam it up. It had to come out of whatever was, where the money was there in that county. That was the way the money was paid for, and so forth. And the next time it was payday, they paid money, they paid checks that had money. But he told that story, I don't know, 500 times, and so forth.
So they had to wait on their money.
Had to wait on their money,
Yeah.
and they weren't going to get it anyplace else.
Yeah. Hmm.
It was dry land farming. You know what dry land farming means?
No.
You don't get any water.
Well,
We're out in West Texas and so
Yeah.
forth, and so farmers could make about crops every third year to make something. And so it was not what you want to call a real wonderful place to be, but the town itself was a very, very nice place to come up.
mhm.
Had to trust in the weather.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have a lot of dust storms?
You know, not any bigger deal than it.
Any place?
And if you lived there, if you grew up there, that's what it was like, and you didn't pay any attention to that anyhow.
Yeah. And what did your kids do for fun when you were growing up?
What did we do?
For fun, yeah.
What ages?
Oh, say from 8, 9 on up.
We stole watermelons from the coach's watermelon patch. Football.
Stole watermelons.
Football community was the biggest sport in Anson, Texas.
Right.
And so, so you start playing in early in the game and so forth, and the town was 3,000 people in it, and so forth, and so the home side of the football field up at the high school had 3,000 seats, and every time we had a football game, the stands were full.
Yeah. And tell me about the coach's watermelons.
Well, it was just a good thing to do to take care of the coach. The coach lived out in a little sandy farm that he just did something, so we had to get out in the middle of the night and get around the other side of a field and go home. But the thing which I always tell with that story is when we come in, we had ice houses. You ever know how to do ice houses and so forth? And we would drive in at night at 9:30 or 10 o'clock and so forth and take them into the ice house, and then we'd put our initials on them. And it was just what happened. It was just the way, nobody ever kicked us, nobody went around and hunted about it and so forth. And looking back on that, I said that was just what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to go to the farm and get a few watermelons.
But then you took them to the coach and you all had a big watermelon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He knew you were.
Homes and all this other kind of stuff. Anyway, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. Well, did you play football in school?
I did. It was all state.
What positions did you play?
Yeah, center linebacker.
Okay. And what kind of defense did you run in those days?
As hard as you could.
And
It was straight hard. We had, we had 50 students in the senior class and so forth, and that's about the size which would put us up with what, maybe 6 or 8 out of that class and 6 or 8 out of each class and so forth, and we were played above, and this little town played above its level because you didn't have any smaller levels closer up and so forth.
So who were some of the teams that you played then?
Abilene, Anson, Hamlin, Stanford, Roby. I know you know all those places.
Well, there's a couple of them. And so you were All-State, did you say?
Yeah, all state.
Nice, boy. Yeah. Did you get a scholarship, athletic scholarship?
Had a good recruiting process. I was shocked the first time I was all-state, and for that level of football, and so I was an all-state, first-string all-state, and so forth. And my life changed at that particular time. Not necessarily to the well, not better to the best, and so forth. But yeah, I went around, and pretty soon people come in, want to talk to you, and see, want to go do this, and so forth. I ended up at Texas A&M.
Oh, you did?
And then when this big guy came along, I went into an engineering course, just to put a little top on that. I'm not necessarily interested in telling about it, but I was in an engineering course. And so, who was the meanest coach in the world that came in at
Bear Bryant.
Bear Bryant came down.
Yeah.
And so at my sophomore year, he came in for the last half of the sophomore year. And it was a brutal process. Now, this is before we went to
Alabama, I know. Or even.
This is before Alabama.
I know, right. There was did you see that? There was a TV show about that on a couple years ago. It was about Bear Bryant when he was at Alabama, and it showed, at Texas A&M when he first got there, and took the guys out in the middle of the summer or wherever, and no water and
to
stuff.
a town.
Right.
Yeah.
Brutal.
So it was true.
No, but see, it was true. It was true. He was actually trying to run people off at the end of the second semester, and I was in an engineering course, and we're relatively serious about that. I was over, and so forth. But there's not enough time to have an engineering course and go out and play the kind of football that he plays.
Yeah,
I
right,
mean,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that changed my life.
I stayed 2 years.
Just stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to just back up a little bit. When you were in high school, did you have any, or when you were growing up, did you have any odd jobs?
Oh, sure. I learned how to pick cotton early in the years and so forth. And then as soon as I could get a good job at one of the places where they sell clothes and that kind of stuff, that was a whole lot better. I'd do anything other than get out of the cotton patch.
Yeah.
I learned that early.
Yeah, well, I can see why you became an engineer. You're pretty smart. Yeah. And now, was your family very religious? Probably were, I suppose. Did you go to church a lot with your family?
Sure, whenever every Sunday, and it was a nice little town on that way.
What church did you go to?
Went to a Methodist church.
Was it close? It must have been pretty close to your house, since it's pretty small.
Oh, sure, we walked to church.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, it took us 7 or 8 minutes.
Dad taught Bible study for 50 years at church.
Your dad taught Bible study, is it?
Yeah, and then I came out
And so does
And
he.
you did too?
in later years. Oh, yeah,
Oh.
I taught Bible for a long time.
Except we're Catholic now.
You what?
We're Catholic now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We were talking to the Catholics about it.
They married one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my wife's a convert also. So, did you have a car when you were in high school, or do you remember the
No.
first car that you had?
When I went back the sophomore year back to school, I bought a car.
What kind was that?
Chevrolet.
It was a Pontiac. Had to be a Pontiac, or else we
That was
wouldn't have
later.
bought it. 4-door Pontiac.
That was later.
No,
Chevrolet.
this was. No. I bought a Pontiac. I bought a Pontiac back from home before I met you, a new one.
Uh-huh.
After a couple of deployments early in the game, so forth, and then.
It's,
Well, okay, that's it. Let's see. So when you were at A&M, you went 2 years to A&M, right? And then what?
Joined the Navy.
Had you been interested in aviation when you were a kid growing up?
We had, my brother and I during World War II had all of the pictures and everything that was happening, and an airplane would go outside and so forth, and I was when I walked up to an SNJ and so forth, we had a little town next door, and they were training early in the war and so forth, and then I had the sound when they messed around with the shift in the gears and the shifting in the blades and all this other kind of stuff. And when I walked out there in the Navy, I had the slightest idea that airplane would have been there. when we got to Pensacola.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And so, but it still was a very good airplane to fly.
Yeah, well, we have one here. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of forgot. So you remember World War II. You were old enough to know what was going on and stuff. Tell me a little bit about what you remember of those days.
Actually, it was around, the things which at this point in my life that I recall have some real instances about it. People had little flags in their windows and so forth and so forth. And then when they got dead, they had different flags in it. And so you could drive around town and know who. And what had happened out of this little town, one of the families that came out of the high school and went together and went to the military together and ended up on Okinawa together and just about wiped out this little town. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And so forth, but it went on.
Okay, so you joined the Navy. What prompted you to join that outfit?
Well, I was interested in airplanes, just never really said I was ever going to go be a pilot. It never did enter into my position, but after I said I wasn't going to go back and try to do an engineering program and play football at the same time. And then I knew about the Naval Aviation Cadet Program, so I went down and talked to them in Dallas, and they said, yep, sign me up, go.
You had a good buddy that was with you, John Tibbs.
Yep.
You did it together.
Met him there, from Oklahoma.
Still good friends today.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
Navy pilot, too.
So this was, what year was this then? Was this 54 when they were talking?
I would have graduated at high school at 54.
No, honey. It was 40, it was before that. You entered the Navy
Oh, I joined the
in
Navy.
54.
No, I did 52. Graduated in 52.
From high school.
From high school,
joined the
2
Navy.
years, and
Right. 50.
after
So you
the
went.
second year, I went there, got there before Christmas. Yeah.
So you went to Pensacola,
Yep.
and tell me what that was like.
We'd go through the processes through the first for the first field and so forth, and they put me in charge of our class and so forth. But I had an experience behind that from Texas A&M in a military process and so forth. It was just a fun thing. It was simple, and it was good courses, and it was very interesting. I enjoyed it immensely. And then of course we went to Corpus Christi. Got to fly 28s, 3-bladed 28s.
Did flying come easy to you?
I don't know what would have called it something other than that. It was always a pleasure. It was always something to look forward to. It was one of those things that you figured out. I figured out that I was pretty good at what I was doing, and went on with it and felt good about it.
Yeah. And where'd you go from Corpus, or where'd you get your wings?
Corpus Christi.
In Corpus Christi.
Yeah. We got to fly the F-9s, and we got to fly T-33s.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice transition, and then we got to go to San Diego and show what this country boy was like, show like this country bike. And so I was going out there and so forth, and I thought, where are they? In North California, or are they in the southern part of California? And so I didn't know where San Diego was, and San Francisco. I didn't know where those places were, and so forth.
So you transitioned from props to jets then?
Oh yeah,
At Corpus Christi?
that's Corpus Christi.
And how was that? Was that difficult going from one to another?
Piece of cake. It never, even until I sit right here and answered that question, it never even occurred to me that I wasn't any good. It was fun.
What is the major difference in flying a prop plane and a jet plane for the pilot?
I think it depends upon what you want to do with it and what you want to. If you like airplanes, and and if the airplanes are good airplanes and can do the job which they're supposed to do, and jobs that you can make it do, and so forth, it didn't make a difference to me what we were flying. It was a big thrill, of course, to fly jets to start with, and all that other kind of stuff, and so forth. We got our carrier landings at the end of basic training in a SNJ.
Did you, when you got to San Diego, were any of your instructors, had any of them been flying in Korea during the Korean War?
No discussion on the field. No discussion. And it was an interesting, and since they didn't raise the subject, I didn't raise the subject, and so forth.
Did you like your instructors?
Oh, sure. I think that you probably have an opinion of the subject, but I thought the Navy pilots were basically pretty good people.
And did you get assigned to a squadron in San Diego?
Got it started, they moved us up to Moffett Field, maybe 2 months or something,
That's up by San Francisco?
up by at the end of San Francisco Bay and so forth. Moffett Field with the big hangar places. You haven't driven by that place.
I think I have, yeah.
Undoubtedly you have, and so forth. But I was still a country boy now, and I didn't know anything. The example of that, just to show, I went over and picked up with a buddy that I just caught up with, and we went out and had dinner. And so down at the bottom of it, it said, we ordered a big steak, right? And so forth, and so forth. And it said,
Not responsible.
not responsible for it if you cook it too high, whatever it was, whatever the statement said. You know,
Well
and so
done.
forth. I didn't know that there was a difference between whether you could have it. I got the first out that the meat was better after all.
And so when you got to Moffett, then would have been about, what year was that then? About 56 maybe, something like that?
56, I think is right.
Okay. Yeah. And where'd you go from there?
Well, they formed a first squadron of F-11s. F-11 was a Grumman fighter. That was the first of the airplanes that were supersonic, and it came out just about the same time as the F-8, which would be an airplane stayed and so forth. But Grumman put out an airplane called F-11s and so forth, a typical carry-on. And of course, I had already flown now some Grumman airplanes and so forth, and then we flew. They started us in the F-9 F-8s in the squadron and so forth. We had some warm-up in there, and then they brought in F-11s. The F-11 was, if you don't know that airplane, it's a neat little airplane. This was, as you will know, at that time the Grumman airplane it'll get you through the number at a high altitude, and it'll go down, and you can get through the Mach number. But the first thing you've learned with an F-11 was that you could go to 50 grand without any problem, and it would stall. The engine would stall. You take it up to 50,000 feet and run it along below the sound, below the number, and it would stall. The engine would stall and so forth. Of course, then you got to go downhill in a hurry. And so, but we always take it up there as high as we could go, and then take it up and it'd quit. And bang, bang, bang. You have to go to shut it and go down, and nobody ever filmed nobody. Stupid kind of stuff, take it up there, but classical sort of thing. But it was a clean little airplane. But I made 2 deployments. The first deployment on the carrier, and the second deployment on the carrier, and I think there were only 3 deployments on F-11s made, and then the F-8U took over the role, which was much more for much faster and much more capable for the job that it needed.
What plane was
F-8.
it? F-8.
F-8Us and some of those.
Yeah.
But the F-8, of course, now I flew some F-8 time in there, and I'm still on the computer with them and listening to all the stuff that they talk about, and they're telling we get a couple of F-8 stories every day on the computer.
Now, where did you go in your first deployment?
Went to the West, went to carrier in the F-11, and went out and went around in the Pacific.
Okay.
Turned around, came back.
What carrier were you on then?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Okay.
I got it in the book.
No, but
Yeah. and then we came back and we rotated a few people through and made another deployment. So we made 2 deployments. Never had to fly at night because it was a very touchy airplane coming aboard. These were the first of the high performance jets that the carrier pilots were not really used to handle with the sensitivity of making good passes with it, so forth. It's just too quick and so forth. Lost my roommate on a landing, went over the port side, and early in the game. But we were not equipped to deal with that. What the Navy was flying at that time was F-9, F-8s, which was a very, did you ever fly an F-9, F-8? Very stable, very calm, classical Grumman, and so forth. But this airplane was designed to be supersonic, and it was. Take it up at 40,000 feet, to 0.8 or something like that, roll it over, and you just go through the number, and down you go.
So what's it feel like to the pilot when you break the sound barrier?
You know as well as I do, there's not much that happens to it except the needle changes and so forth. And also, but as you also know, that the aerodynamics of the airplane function separately enough. If you remember, the F-11 was the Blues flew them for several years.
Oh, Blue Angels, yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
and so forth. And it was a nice airplane, but.
But you black out if you're too high in altitude, is it? Or is it the pulling G's can make you black out?
Well, you can do it either way. If you don't have an oxygen, you're going to get it either way. G's are, you can't, it's hard to go out too much without G's because you're going to automatically release the stick. And it's automatically, if it's a general airplane, it's going to go back first. It's going to automatically just go fly wherever some direction it was going to go. So it was not a big deal. And very seldom can you pull enough G's on a jet in a high performance airplane at high altitude. You don't have enough G's to get around the corner to pull yourself to down.
Yeah. Okay, now that we're talking about hot airplanes, let's talk about some hot girls. How about in high school? Did you have girlfriends or anything?
Well, everybody.
Preacher dog.
Well, everybody in a little town like that had a girlfriend, and so forth. And we went to people's houses.
Yeah.
There was no place to go get in trouble, sweetie.
I believe it. I've been there.
It was a nice place to grow up, but
Yeah.
but we were innocent.
Okay.
Took me a long time. After I got married, I got it.
Well, when did you guys meet then, or when?
After 2 deployments in that F-11s.
1960.
Oh, 1960, yeah. And so where did you guys, well, I tell you, it's a good time for you to go over there now.
Okay.
So where did you all meet?
It's kind of a cute story. I was working at the Auto Club. I was the travel girl for the AAA office.
Where was
And
this?
In San Jose. And it's just about a 30-minute drive from Moffett Field where he was stationed. He had already made 2 cruises and was gone a lot and didn't really have a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of girls. And one of his buddies brought him in under the pretense of making reservations for a ski weekend up at Shasta. I guess they ended up at they wanted to go to Tahoe, but there wasn't too much available because it came in like 2 days before Washington's birthday weekend or the president's weekend. And I didn't figure it out at the time, but it was really just to check me out because his buddy Al had been there before and said, this might be somebody you want to meet. So I had the reservation for him sitting on the counter, which asked for the name, date, what kind of reservations you wanted. And Al had walked out by then. Wayne had not said a word, and he was like 2 feet taller than Al, and wearing a white shirt with a dark tan and a sport coat, and he looked good to me. Anyhow, I hadn't said anything to Wayne. He hadn't said anything to me. I was doing all the talking with Al prior to this. Well, he takes the reservation form, turns it around, and writes his name, E.W. Connell, and puts dinner with a question mark after it and turns the form around to me. And I think he put the next night date on it. And so I thought, well, I don't know about this, but I picked up a San Jose city map from underneath the, under the pigeonholes on the counter and a marking pen, and I wrote my name and address and telephone number and drew the route out from the office to my home, folded it back up and handed it to him. Neither one of us saying anything to each other, so I hadn't even heard his voice. Until the next day, I was just pulling up in the driveway from work, and my mother hollers out the door, "You have a phone call." And it was him saying he had to pick me up. He'd like to pick me up an hour early because he had the early the next morning. Well, I had no idea what Navy people did at all, let alone pilots. And so he picked me up. We went to this dinner, which was kind of another story, and brought me home. I was home by probably 9:30. And I walked in the house, and my dad said, "What are you doing so early? You okay? Everything all right?" I said, "Yeah, he had the early in the morning." He said, "Well, you better watch that guy. He's been around." That's the way the whole thing started. And so we were married 11 months later.
And what was your maiden name?
Raish.
Did you grow up in San Jose?
No, I was actually born in Saskatchewan.
Oh, really?
Moved to California when I was 8.
Okay. And your mom and your mom and dad, what was their names?
Mm-hmm. She was Polish, Jaboski, and my dad was French. And he was born in Minnesota, and she was born in Canada. But her parents had come from Poland. She was the youngest of 11 children. Yeah. Kind of spoiled a little bit, but Daddy was 8 years older than she was, and thought she was beautiful and fun, and ended up having 7 kids together. I was the 5th. And so,
what did your dad do?
In Canada, he was a wheat farmer. And we came to California and everything fell apart. There's no wheat to grow, he didn't know what to do, had some cows, and so basically farming until things got so tough he ended up doing carpentry work. Both of my parents were very talented. They always knew how to get by, and as soon as the kids got old enough, we all did anything we could to earn money. If kids went to work, I did, babysitting, whatever, mostly bought our own clothes. It was a real close-knit family. We pulled together and ended up, all of them being quite successful.
Okay. And why did they come to California?
It was at the encouragement of one of my uncles, my dad's, one of his brothers, to get his family to a country where there was more opportunity and not so cold. Mm-hmm. And I'm certainly, glad that he did, because I love California.
And you went to school in San Jose?
Well, actually, we moved to the San Joaquin Valley, Chowchilla.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, all 7 of us went through high school. Well, not the youngest, I guess. I was probably the last one. Went through all through school, though, in Chowchilla. Okay. Chowchilla High School, rah, rah, rah.
And you guys went, you belonged to a parish, Catholic parish when you were growing up?
Oh, yes, church? Always. Mm-hmm.
What was that? What?
Well, in Chowchilla, I don't even remember the name of the church anymore, but, we did all that, First Communion, confirmation, the usual Catholic family thing. Right. My parents were not, I would say they're not, they weren't really strict like his parents were. There was no dancing and all that part. Hey, we had wine with dinner. And but, they frowned on divorce, and out of 7 kids, none of us got divorced. We've been married, it'll be 48 years in January.
Wow. So how did you end up in San Jose then?
Let me think. San Jose, let's see. My dad found more work there. He did finishing carpenter work, and my mother sewed for the public, and so. And
you got a job with the auto club right out of high school, or what?
Soon after, yes. I had sisters that, one of them worked for a steel company there, and she helped me get my first job in the steel company where she worked.
Did you graduate from high school in San Jose or Chowchilla?
Well, I ended up Chowchilla.
Oh, okay.
And we ended up having 3 children.
And what are their names?
Christy, David, and Kelly.
And where do they all live?
Christy lives in the desert here with her husband, who is a mechanical engineer, owner of a company with her. Also a professor at UC Riverside, isn't it?
Riverside.
San Bernardino. And our daughter Kelly also lives in California. She's the youngest, and she's single and has a good job. Lives in Altaloma. And our son is a special agent with the FBI. He's in Connecticut.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Any grandchildren yet?
4 grandsons. No girls.
Okay.
And I'd love to have girls.
Well, let's back up then now again to after you guys met and you became a Navy wife. During your marriage, I am assuming that he was gone a fair amount of time. Was that hard on you, or how did?
You know, ignorance is bliss. He told me before we were actually married that there's going to be times of separation because he flew planes that were on carriers, and they didn't take us with them. And of course, you know, I didn't know what I was getting into, but
We just thought that was what we were supposed to do.
we were supposed to do. And so it was, you know, looking back on it now, it was really tough. But it was kind of one of these situations where you did what needed to be done to the best of your ability. And we were in San Diego, so my family was in San Jose, so it was like, you know, 400 miles difference. They didn't run back and forth to help. But we always had a lot of friends, and, you know, the girls just sort of pulled together.
Did you spend most of the time in San Diego, or did you have to move around much?
We had gone to Moffett Field with the F-11, and they had the F-8 training place for there, and so they were. When I came out of the second run to the Pacific and so forth, when I came back, they put me into that place, and it moved down to San Diego.
Oh.
So we had to have, and we had just gotten married, and we picked Debbie up and took her to San Diego.
Well, they moved the jets. They moved all the jets out of Moffett, actually.
Yep.
Half of them went to Miramar, and the other, I think, went to Lemoore.
Yep. And I didn't want to go to Lemoore.
Yeah,
I had enough sense. This country boy knew better than to go there.
We had a wonderful skipper at the time. His name was Vince Kelly, and he directed us correctly. He knew that was a much better future for us. And as it turned out, though, we were married 6 months, then moved to San Diego, away from my family, and I was very close to my sisters, so that was a little tough in the beginning. But I got pregnant right away, like 4 months, and so we had a baby to take care of, and that helped.
Where did you live in San Diego then?
We lived in
Claremont.
Claremont. That was our first home.
You would know that area.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, yeah.
And ended up basically in Del Mar and Solana Beach for the 30 years we were there.
We have a daughter that lives in Solana Beach right now, and grandkids,
right.
we go down there quite a lot. And she used to live in Claremont, actually, before she moved over there.
Yeah,
So I know that area very well, yeah.
yeah, it's nice.
That's nice, yeah. Where in Solana Beach or Del Mar area? What streets did you live on?
In Del Mar, we lived on Barbados Way. It was a new development. We were the first owners of that home in that development. Just down the street, a couple of blocks from, I think it was Skyline School, wasn't it?
In Solana Beach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Del Mar. In Del Mar.
Oh, in Del Mar, okay.
Or was it Skyline?
Skyline's over on Loma Santa Fe. Our
That
kids,
was, okay,
grandkids
that was
go
Solana
there.
Beach.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was that little elementary school that was just up the hill off of, I forget the name of that street now. Anyway, we were there for 5 years, so it was, and when we moved there, we still had one at home. And then our youngest was in first grade and third grade. And then when we moved to Solana Beach just 5 years later, and of course it's so close by, it wasn't much of a move at all, but we had to get a bigger house. And by then he had retired from the Navy, and we decided that's where we wanted to stay. Wayne, in all of his wisdom, had decided, because he was going to be going on cruise, he made so many cruises and I was home a lot with the kids, that we should have a membership in the Loma Santa Fe Country Club, which would be a good thing for me and the kids. So we learned how to play tennis, and the kids did a lot of swimming. And so we became a tennis family there, and that was very good for us.
Yeah, I play a lot of tennis, or we do. Our daughter, down there, they belong to that club also.
Yeah,
Loma
good
Santa
club.
Fe. So they swim a lot too. They like the ocean. Do so. So where was your home in Solana Beach? What street were you on
We
there?
were on Santa Cecilia,
Which
and
is
just off of Loma Santa Fe, to the east of the freeway
okay.
and north of Loma Santa Fe.
Did you go to St. James?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where we go when we go down there.
We were one of the first there to build the new church.
Yes.
How old is it now? It's got to be
I-
a lot of years, but
yeah.
we were there when it was built,
Yeah.
and contributed a lot. We started the coffee and donuts after Mass there.
Was Father Purcell there when you were there? Do you remember that?
No, it was after we left.
Yeah, then he.
But we do know him.
He's from here in the desert.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he has a brother that we know real well. They had a lumber company in Palm Springs.
Really?
Okay, now, when did you go aboard the Midway?
Midway was going to be, went 2 deployments, moved down south and so forth, and all that through that, and then where did I go? Where did we go?
Well, you were on the Midway several times.
No, no. This was not, the F-11 was not on the Midway,
Yeah,
later on.
Right, well.
Other cruises on the Midway.
Yeah, but I was just wondering when you started deploying on the Midway. Was it about the time, shortly after you got married then,
I
pretty
had
much?
I didn't have a bachelor's degree and so forth, and want to get my place position. But I had I got a job after the 2 deployments, first one and so forth, and so I'd go aboard for a shore duty rotation, and we got pushed up to go be an admiral's aide at Whidbey Island. So we picked up and went up to the north and spent a year up there, and then he went down and took a carrier task force job, and he took me with him, and so we spent a year. We spent a year there and went overseas, and at the end of this carrier deployment, of course, as you remember, the staffs don't go basically with the carriers; they go wander around. But we were on what was it, 64? 64. When did the strikes? What the strikes? Anyway, I wasn't flying, of course. I was just a staff puke, and.
But it was the first cruise of the Vietnam War.
Well, and the war started. The Vietnam War started. They threw the very first strike from this carrier at that time, and I don't remember what the carrier was. It was not Midway, and so forth.
Was it a Constellation?
No.
Okay. He had been on several different carriers, so.
The admiral moved around on the carrier.
He was the admiral's aide in Washington, Whidbey Island, for 1 year, and then the admiral went to sea, and we came back to San Diego at that point. At which time our son was born, without him knowing it, so much later. And from there, we were married 3 years before we went to Washington, so that was good to have him home for the first 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
After that, he was gone half of the first 10 years we were married. Meanwhile, we're having children and all this.
And those deployments were over the
All
to
Vietnam.
South China Sea, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we didn't. It was at the end of this deployment for that staff.
Mhm.
For that
And so
particular
forth.
job.
And the war was on.
Yeah.
But the admiral, why I ever got to be an admiral's aide, nobody really knows. But
Yeah.
He sent me to school, sent me up to Monterey.
Well, after that job, we went to Monterey.
Went up to Monterey for 2 years, which was a wonderful time to play golf. And
He was a very good golfer, and he seemed to win all the tournaments and all the places we
But it was
were.
treating us right. The Navy was really taking care of me.
So we were there for 2 years,
We were there in 2 years,
and then came back to San Diego and out to sea.
and went back and went to sea to an F-4 squadron. Went through the
What squadron was that?
114. We have
114 is right.
I want to give you, take this and take a look at that photo, that picture over there. I want to talk about this F-4 a little bit. I don't know if it's exactly like the one that you flew or not, but
They're all basically the same there until you went to one stage up from there.
uh-huh.
This is
And,
the old design.
tell me a little bit about some of the characteristics of the plane and stuff like that we were looking at here.
They, first of all, the airplane, as you well know, started out with the Navy, and then the Marine Corps wanted it, and then the Air Force wanted it, and everybody wanted the F-4. And it was put into the fighter business for Navy, so that in the West Coast Navy business, fighters were into intercept and dogfights and all that other kind of stuff and so forth and so. But it was not as such a it was not overly maneuverable. It was a big airplane, of course, and so forth and so on. But it would do anything that you could make it do, which is a nice thing to do in an airplane, as you well know, and so forth. It was steady and so forth. But you got a centerline tank, which I never saw never did blow one off. But you had good legs. You had two J-79s. You probably know that.
Yeah, why don't you, I mean, I probably don't, but there's somebody that's going to be watching this, certainly doesn't know, so don't assume I know anything. Just, this is kind of an educational thing.
Anyway, you had two engines that were 10,000 pounds on basic throttle and on 15,000 pounds when you light the burners. So you had 30,000 pounds coming out and so forth. And it turned out to be, the Marines, of course, flew them, and it was a good airplane. The Air Force had them, and everybody in the whole world had F-4s, and it happened to be an airplane that was used a tremendous amount in Vietnam. And it was an airplane that would take a lick and do a job and come home and do a whole lot of things, and so it was a major thing. And when I got back to a squadron and so forth, we went to war.
What kind of weaponry does it carry? Weapons?
Always carried, basically in the strikes that were going over the Vietnam area and so forth. We always went off the bow. If you were only going to do an air mission, if you were going to do a cover to a strike or something like that, then it was a pretty clean airplane. But what we had a problem was in an air wing was that we had A4s in the air wing. Now the Air 4, of course, the A4 was made to carry a single nuclear weapon, relatively small weapon, and so forth and so forth. But then you put a whole lot of ordnance on the A4, and you couldn't put a whole lot on it, and you couldn't carry them very fast, and so forth. And so we always, within the air wing, there was conflict between the F4s and the A4s, because these are the attack people and so forth. But basically, when they went west at that time, they were supposed to be nuclear deliverers in that game. That was what the airplane was built to do, is to deliver nuclear weapons and so forth. And so when we went, we had basic strikes under North Vietnam where we would run 8 a day. Eight launches a day, and that'll take 12 hours to get them up and get them out and so forth. And if you want to put together a big strike and so forth, and the A's are going to, and the attack people are, because we didn't do much ground area before, we did all air to air until we got to the war and so forth. But the F-4, so the A-4 would, I don't know how much it made, maybe 2 500-pounders, not a whole lot. The A-4 goes off the bow with two Sparrows, 2 Sidewinders, and 10 500-pound bombs and a drop in the middle. And so it could do anything. And any time you can blow the bombs off and be an air fighter and do that. and it would carry them, and it would carry them in a hurry, and you come into that area where you're going to have to make your strike, and so forth, so forth. You're not just wandering along here and getting it up and getting it down, and so forth. But you learned how to bomb, but we didn't even have gun sights, which was an interesting thing. And but it was our squadron defined what, 8 MiGs, 5 MiGs. Yeah, last.
Cruise of the war.
Yeah, but we had 4 strike. I had four deployments, and I don't even remember who the boss was. Long time back in it. But anyway, made 2 strikes with that, and I mean made 2 deployments with that after getting educated. Well, I should have known better. See, after that, and so forth and so on. But
He flew more combat missions, over 400.
Wow.
440. 4 deployments, basically 100 each one, and an XO. The last 2, one was for an XO and one was a CO. So I had a squadron of my own. At that, we were recalled at the earliest, and so it was a 1 year late, the last deployment to shut the war down, and so forth. And the squadron was named declared as the best fighter squadron in the Navy for that year.
That was a Clifton Award.
Mm. Did you lose any of your pilots?
We had a visit at our house.
We did lose one.
We did lose one, but tell you two stories.
POW.
Yeah.
Oh.
But and so we had a POW, and he just passed through. He and his wife passed through the house the other day, coming over from San Diego, and so forth. So they, where are we going now?
What was the question?
Well, okay, you lost one, but he survived. But he was a POW.
Right.
None of them were killed.
One was
One was killed.
One was killed, and
One was killed.
the one that survived was the radar officer that flew in the back seat.
That's what I was going to. We didn't get it, but it looks like there's 2. It's a 2-man crew, right?
Yep.
And the job of the backseat is what?
Well, you have a complete system. You have an air-to-air missile system, which is effective, and people said, fighter pilots used to say, no, I don't want to body back in the back seat and so forth. And but people, when you're going to war and you need people to look and see, and people to do the different things that you could do with 2 people. People really learned to like the F-4, and
Another set of eyes
Yeah,
to watch
sure.
in combat.
Yeah.
Okay.
and it was steady. It was solid. It would carry a load. It could make a big turner, and
Did you fly any night missions, or was it all?
way too many. I had 4 deployments on carriers in the time, and the last 2 it had been pretty well refined in
Yes, you
there,
had
and so
fun.
we had three carriers on station. One was all day, one was all night, and then one was half day and half night, and then you rotated the 3 carriers. One was stationed for about normally 30-35 days, and you go to the Philippines for a few days, and then you come back out and rotate those 3 carriers through, and so forth. So
This was during the Vietnam War.
oh yeah, this was the war from a naval aviation perspective, and so forth. We did small numbers of work in South Vietnam when the weather was bad in the north. We would go back down, but basically we went north.
Did the government did you have your hands tied as far as targets you could go after and stuff like that? You hear about? Did was the Navy precluded from going after certain targets that they might feel they should be going after?
Actually, and we didn't have any. Of course, we had an admiral's staff on board, so we had something to talk to the big people. But basically, much of the work about what the strikes were going to go and come out of Hawaii, believe it or not. And it would come in overnight and so forth like that, and you walk in and crazy as sin and so forth. So it was a mess. But you'd fly, if you're going to fly all night, and you're going to do it for about 15 days before you're going to rotate out, but just all night work, and you're going to go over and run around North Vietnam and all this other kind of stuff, and that's tough. That's tough when they have missiles up there. That's another interesting game to play, and then typically the ones that were daylight only would fly the larger, put their group together, and you launch 20 planes that go to the same strike, as opposed to sending out 2 F-4s to go here and 2 A-4s to go there, and you do it both. You can do it both ways, so it was a big job. And the truth of the matter was, early in the war, we were losing almost as many people because of our own problems. And that's not brutal numbers, but still there was significant waters because we were not truthfully prepared to carry that much of a very heavy load and get it done rightly and so forth. And so we lost, and I don't know the numbers because I didn't get the figures and do that, but it was brutal. But as the war went along, we lost no airplanes for all practical purposes to our own only with good work on their part, as opposed to bad work on our part. And so we were very, very lucky in that thing, and we did a whole lot of work. Night work off the bow. I'm going to make a comment about the F-4. F-4 was not, with that kind of load that we're dealing on the bow, the center has gone too far out of where you're supposed to be. When you go off the front of the carrier, so you're going to shoot it, and if you're not careful, you've got too much nose up. It'll automatically come up. And so, but the problem is that you go off the bow of an aircraft carrier most of the time, it's black. You're flying instruments off the bow. Now, when they put all those weapons on it and so forth, they have moved the center of gravity too far back, and made the nose real nosy. And so you're going to sit it in the seat. You're going to pull it in your crotch for the shot, and you got to look on the gauges, and to fly instrument off the cadam of the shot is not a fun thing to do, and so forth. But what your question is you got to fly it up to that point and then stop it, and go off in instruments and so forth. But we got where we could do that routinely. It was really that in the way, and getting back aboard at night and all this other kind of stuff and so forth. It was a brutal work.
Oh, I bet. Let's hold that thought. I got to change tapes here right now. How you guys doing?
Fine. Want some water?
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You actually made 5 cruises altogether during the Vietnam War. It was 3 before we went to Navy War College and 2 after.
Well, that was the start of the war.
Well, regardless, I'm talking about the total
Time out there.
Total 5 cruises. As far as I was concerned, there were 5 cruises. You were gone.
That's true.
But he was able to get his bachelor's degree in Monterey, the postgraduate school.
Yeah.
And then he was able to, after a couple more cruises, then we went to Navy War College in Rhode Island.
Oh.
So Rhode Island and Washington were the only 2 other states we stayed in.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever lived in.
They made us brilliant. We got master's
Right.
degrees as well.
And while he was at the War College in Rhode Island, he also got his master's degree at George Washington U.
Oh, okay.
And then came back, and he was executive officer where he made a cruise, and then was commanding officer the following year, where he made another cruise, and that last cruise was the end of the Vietnam War. And they were gone something like 3 days short of a year. That was tough.
And I want to ask you, obviously you knew he was going to harm's way when he was out there.
Yeah.
What was that like for you and for the kids? Did they,
Well, you know,
were
one
they as
thing,
concerned about it as you, or?
they were young, but the thing that I felt was so important was to keep Daddy's image alive. And so I had a big picture of him. I'm going to get emotional now. But how we, you know, I always had them kiss Daddy's picture goodnight. And so I thought that was very important. And I prayed a lot. I mean, the power of prayer is incredible. We went through an awful lot with, because he was commanding officer, I was skipper's wife. And that was kind of it was a fun thing, but it was a big responsibility. But I'm half deaf, and so I could always, you know, act ignorant when the girls would ask me questions. Most of the time I was ignorant, but basically, you know, it was one of those things where he told me from the very start, you don't wear the stripes, I do. And so I always stayed out of it. You know, it wasn't my business. I was just there to support him.
I also wondered if you have any letters that you wrote back and forth that we can make copies,
You know,
something
I
you think
didn't-
might be significant that we could add to.
Didn't bring any, but
Well, I
we
mean, you can send them
wrote
next time
every
you're
day.
around, sure, yeah.
I'm
sure you
every
did.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Now, so did you tangle up with any MiGs when you were flying?
440 missions and never saw a MiG.
Never saw one.
Never saw one. I mean, I was heartbroken from the start to the end.
Yeah.
It's really a strange thing.
But you said, what's your last cruise that your squadron did get some?
Yes,
they got
yes, yeah, we picked up a few, and as we said, they said that they announced, the Navy announced, as they do every year, they pitch out one squadron in each field, and so at the end of that thing, we were the F-4s.
They got the Clifton Award.
Yeah.
Probably talked
Yeah.
about that.
And what was the tactics that you were supposed to use against the MiGs?
Well, you know, you only have, first of all, the system, I'll tell you the last MiG of the war, and which is really what complicates about this thing is, and so forth. This guy, we had the carrier task force down here, which would be 3 of them up here, but put fighters up there with a destroyer up there on the ground, up there just off the north coast, and so that you could get some support out of if you had it to go do it, to take care of it, and so forth and so on. And so it was but it was a routine. It was boring as sin, particularly on a big black night, and you go up there and just run around in circles. You know, you can understand that thing and so forth. Then you got to go back down home and make a carrier landing at night and get through all that kind of stuff and so forth. So anyway, so one of the guys, 2 guys were out there, normally my wingman, and so forth, and so they go up there. We're about 5 days from the war being over. We know the war is going to be over in 4 or 5 days, and lo and behold, a MiG-15 comes wandering out over the water. Something that nothing ever happened. We've never been threatened with that and so forth. So we have a destroyer down there, and we have a controlling thing, and so off they turn the switches on, and off you run, and so forth. And before they got into shape, they turned, but this 15 would turn around, went back away, and so forth and so on. And so they came back down and turned the switches down and go back and go to sleep in a chair and so forth and tell you. And lo and behold, the MiG turns around and comes back out, just wanders out and so forth and so forth. So they said, okay, off to vector 2, go so and so and so and so and so, and turn all the switches on and decide what you're going to shoot at him with and so forth. And so it came out there and it went around the corner and so forth, and they started it, and then he broke away. Well, if he was going to break away, well, a 15 could turn around and spit in an F-4's face. No way in the world you could have. But the MiG turned hard like that, and so they're going to shut it up and picked the nose up and so forth. And lo and behold, this guy turned around and goes back to go home. Puts the nose down. Last MiG of the war went down right there. And so forth. We called it our, I don't know, some kind of idiot jet. You know, idiot.
Polish MiG.
Polish MiG is what we called
Polish
it. We
MiG.
called it our Polish MiG. Because the pilot was a Polish guy. He was a Polish,
Kowaleski.
Kowaleski was his name.
Oh.
Anyway, so it's a good story.
Yeah, really, yeah. So they were more maneuverable than the F-4 then?
Well, yeah, but a 15 was a way back game. They used 15s in Vietnam against us, against that, you know. We were using Chinese and Russian airplanes is what they used.
Uh-huh,
And
you're right. Yeah.
That's right. And so it was it was an old airplane.
So it was from, from Korea, maybe? Did it fly that?
You know,
Well, that was probably not a big.
we knew that the Chinese, these airplanes came out of China, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah.
But they had some in North Vietnam. They had airfields
Mhm.
and so forth. And so I'm not sure we knew whether that one came from, to tell you the truth.
Did you have any, landing on the carriers, did you have any planes that crashed coming aboard when?
You know, I'm gonna say,
Connie Hoffner's was.
yeah, but that was before. That was back when.
You're talking about while he had a command?
Well, anytime he was out there, out in the South China Sea,
Yeah.
I mean, well, any of your deployments.
Well, my XO was a guy that we had been earlier had been together as lieutenant commanders doing whatever we were doing on the squadron. So we were old friends to do that sort of thing. And when I got to be a CO, he came aboard as XO, which is the rotation process. I thought it looked sort of.
Yeah, it's scholarly. That's all right. Leave him alone.
But
Okay.
but so it was a big kill, and the guy that was a Polish pilot that shot it, and so we called it our.
Right.
We're talking about Connie Hoffner's accident now.
Okay.
When he came home.
Connie went over the port side, and I
didn't
made
catch
I made the call. I was the operations officer, and and we were both lieutenant.
Well, what happened? He
commander.
didn't catch the wire?
Well, it didn't catch the wire, but it wasn't a fault with that. It was high and over one side, and went over the side, and actually caught part of a wire, and dangled. Went off the port side, and it actually was the wire drug it into the water, and of course the carrier does whatever it does and so forth. But the front part of the ship is in water, and it moves up and down, and some of it would come over the first part of the cockpit and so forth, and he couldn't see, so he ejected, which was not a bad thing to do, except to turn it came out of the seat, and he hit underneath the carrier and hit it, banged a leg up pretty bad.
On the top of the carrier, because the plane was right beside.
Underneath the carrier, not
Yeah.
underneath. And
Yeah,
it fell back into the water, and the destroyer picked him up, made it, got both people out.
Oh, he survived then.
Both of them survived, and he turned around and had a command. Came back to be my XO when I was CO. Same guy came back.
Let me ask you, when you're in command like that, there's a lot different, more responsibility than when you're not in command.
Always.
How did you think about, do I really want to take this on, or what was your thoughts about that?
You know, I think that it's something that in the naval aviation business, to be a commanding officer of a fighter squadron was the highest trophy that you could manage in most of the people's business. So nobody was afraid to be a fighter pilot and to take those and take the skipper out of that. Now the attack people are different people, and believe it or not, you can take them out and psychologically look them up and find there's a difference enough that you, not a big difference because, but there's some difference. Pretty aggressive people. Stupid is a better word. And so forth. Yeah. But other than that,
What makes a successful commander?
I don't know that you can make it. It's got to be somebody that has what's inside to make it happen, and then get into the pattern where you run into to see that you don't. You have to see what people are doing to be a fighter pilot, and the attitude that goes with that. And a lot of it's a little BS and all this other kind of stuff that goes with it. But the fighter pilot world plays into it pretty well, and they fly airplanes about as good as they can fly them.
But I would think that your job is to keep everybody working together, almost like a football coach to a certain extent.
Absolutely.
Keep a team.
Sure.
And what kind of makeup do you have to make that happen?
I don't know that I can say that. I don't know that I can delineate what that is.
It's the same thing that makes him the husband, the father. It's who he is. And
We do talk about
Well, let me put it this
Leadership.
way.
personalities in those jobs.
And
yeah.
leadership. Put it this way: before you got a command over your own, did you pay close attention to what your CO was doing and what you could learn from him, or did you? And could you see how I could do it better, or how?
Mhm.
Well, of course, I had 2 deployments as lieutenant commanders, and one of them wasn't. One of the COs wasn't any good, and one of them was good.
Okay, now the one that wasn't any good, why wasn't he any good? I mean, what was the difference between the two?
I don't know. It's just something you see. It's not.
Being an authentic, real, caring person,
That's true.
his guys loved him.
You literally lead. Whereas if you've got the attack people, and some of the things they're not quite so leadish. If it's a tough
The
job.
camaraderie was built a lot because there was a lot of good humor. And they did a lot of things in the ready room, games, and make wads of, what did you call those? They were called the rock rivers, and they'd make rocks out of paper. And if somebody goofed up during the day, they got stoned. Everybody had their
That's
paper
right,
rock,
yeah.
and they'd stone him. And he was Rock River 1 was his call name.
And when the work day was over for the ready room and so forth, there always was a movie, and we go through some little maneuvers and whatever we wanted to do, and somebody was in trouble or somebody screwed something up, and then you pull them up in front of everybody, and everybody stone them. And
His
it's an
nickname-
unusual for it to be good.
Everybody sort of dovetailed. They were true friends and still are today. You know, here we're 35, 38 years later, and they're just probably as close today, taking care of each other, watching out for each other. And his nickname was Deacon from the get-go. And that tells you a lot about the character this guy is. You know, he took care of his buddies.
Now, when you were CO, did you fly missions yourself?
Sure.
Pretty much as many as you did when you were not CO?
Oh, wait, no. You're going to take about the same, everybody takes the same amount.
He
There's no-
took the riskier ones.
Well, that's
Right.
correct, because I had control over where the ones that were going to do that and so forth. I poke, or else I would poke some good people that are really good. I can poke them out and make them go do that. And
So that probably gains you a lot of respect that you're not going to have them do something that you're not going to do, not willing to do yourself.
oh yeah, it's not even said, and so forth. But and the attack people do have their own processes that they go through and do things. So it's an interesting game. If you wanted to be a fighter pilot, you don't want to get caught up in an F-4 pilot and so forth. Now that may be BS if you get much out of the rig, I don't know.
I wanted back because I forgot to ask you about this. When did you decide you were going to make the Navy a career?
At the end of the first 2 deployments in the F-11s, and put ashore, I was still in reserve. And I knew that you can't stay around if you're going to be around. You've got to be regular. You can't be a reserve and stay that and so forth. So I had to make that decision, or whether I could become a regular as opposed to a reserve. And so forth, and so I went there, and I hadn't quite tied up with her yet.
Okay, but it was quite a while after we were married. He was already a Lieutenant JG when we got married. He'd already been in for 5 years, and when he became a lieutenant, he said, "This is kind of a decision-making time. Either I'm going to stay and make a career of it, or we get up." And we talked about it and decided to stay in. That was security, to us at that time. He didn't have all the education that he has now. So we didn't have that to fall back on, and had 3 little kids, so we decided to stay in and stick it out. And I'm sure glad we did. It was a looking back on it now, even with all the hardships, it was a good life, and that we're very proud of.
Was San Diego, towards the end of the Vietnam War, was there as much protest there as in the rest of the country?
I don't think so.
No, it didn't seem like it.
We were not aware. If you came in and went to San Diego and so forth, basically other than what you see in the television around the world or something like that, we didn't see it otherwise. Mm-hmm. And didn't pay any attention to it either, by the way.
No, because we had our own heroes coming home, and that was more important, especially to get the POWs home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the war with Vietnam ended, then what did you do?
Well, that was
celebrated.
Celebrated, but that occurred. I led the last major strike against North Vietnam from an aircraft carrier. They came down, and we knew the war was over. A couple of days over, and so forth, and some guy, I don't know, either the CAG or somebody else came in and said, "Wayne, you're going to lead the last strike about so and so and so and so." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And so you had to go in, and you would have probably 20, 22, 23 airplanes that would get up there. Would be a pretty good strike for
what would your flying time be till you got to that?
Time would be relatively short. You're gonna get there. You're gonna get there in 30, 40 minutes and come home. You're close enough and to do that. And you got good time to get there and good time to come back, and you got fighters and support and all this other kind of stuff. And so the hardest part of the program was when you have a major strike, you have to pull in all your squadrons into one strike, and you have to brief all the thing here. What are you going to do? Get them up here. We're going to do here. We're going to do so here. We're going to all of the maneuvers and so forth, and so that was my job.
We're talking about the last cruise.
Last strike.
That was it.
And that was it, and so forth. And so it was a big dam, and I said, "What in the world has that dam been there all this time if they want us to take it out to stay?" And everybody was speaking about doing something to be the last strike, and everybody understood that the last strike is a bad deal. There was probably 22, 24 airplanes in the group, and so forth, and you don't want to get shot down in the last one, and so forth. By the same token, you want to do away with a job, and it was extremely well done.
So the war was over, and yet you flew another strike?
No, the war was not over. Obviously,
I thought you said it had just ended.
If we went over and bombed them,
Before it ended.
But just a day or two before it ended, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was the last one.
And from there, that was in 1973, he had 2 more years in the Navy, and he decided to take a staff job at Miramar.
No.
Yes,
Coming home from that,
after you came home from that.
if you think you're running at a pretty good rate for the levels of people that coming up, and what are you going to get? What kind of jobs are you going to get up here, and all this other kind of stuff, and so forth, and so you worry about it, and but I had been two long rides to the war and so forth, and we got 3 kids, and when we came into the Philippines for the last time to go forward, not before we're going home, but before we're going to go back to the last cycle before we go home. And I picked up the phone and called a detailer out of Washington from the Philippines and so forth, and talking to this guy. I didn't know him and so forth and so forth. But I knew what was open to me at my level, and what my performance had been, and so forth and so forth. And so this guy was going to, he said, well, I've got a great job for you, and it was a good job for me, and so forth. It was a 4-striper job, but they were going to turn me around and send me back to the Pacific, and on a job on a ship, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to do if you think you're going to be a Navy guy and drive ships. You got to do that, right? And that sort of thing. And so I told this guy, I said, and I didn't know him, and so forth. And I said, hey, how about what have you got? What do you got in store for me to do this? And he said, well, I've got this job and so forth and so forth. You're going to go out on this staff to go back out to the ocean. And I said, when are they supposed to be going out there? They're leaving about the same time you're coming back here. And I said, I need a break. I said, I've got 3 kids at home and going into high school and so forth, and I'm worn out, and I want a break. Give me a break, and I'm willing to go back to the hard jobs and do that and so forth. This guy wouldn't bend me a crack. And
It would have been like 2 months at home, and then he'd go back. This is too much.
And so I said, well, I'll see you the next time we get into bed, get him back in port and talk to you again, and so forth. So picked him up, called it again, and so forth, and he wouldn't change his mind. And I said, well, put it in the sidewaters and I'll retire. Stupid thing to say. Now that's a classical fighter pilot statement right there.
It really is.
And so we came in and we got our world together. It's been about a year to get through, and we retired.
It was 2 years, yeah.
Okay. But during that time, you were at Miramar?
At Miramar on staff.
Mhm.
Living in Del Mar.
Yeah. So how many years did you put in then?
22 total. Isn't that right?
And we keep saying 22. I think that's what it was.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
So what did you do then after you retired?
Well, the answer is also still pretty simple. I was going to be a teacher because of my whole family was in the teacher game and so forth, and I was looking for a teacher's job, but I really didn't want to go to be a teacher. I was caught myself up in this thing, and finally I went down and decided that I need to go teach and so forth. At that time I had obviously I had a bachelor, which the Navy gave me, and they also gave me a master's up at
You got your master's at George Washington U
Yep.
while you were going to war college.
That's right.
They
and
didn't
so
give it
forth.
to you.
Mm.
You worked hard for that one.
Mhm.
He also won the Newport golf tournament 2 years in a row while he was doing all this school.
What was your handicap then?
It was pretty good when you had a little time.
3.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wanted to, while I'm thinking about it, and all the missions that you flew and everything, can you tell me any times you felt like you weren't going to make it back. I mean, did anything ever happen to your plane, or did you have any close calls, what you might call, or anything like that, or were you really nervous?
You know, if that's their game, then you got to go do it. And if you have to get too scared with it and so forth, and it has to be that way, then you got problems, I think.
I know that, but I mean, did you ever have any mechanical problems with your plane, or where
Well,
you had to nurse it along to get it back, or anything like that?
Never got an airplane hit that I remember.
But you crashed in in a helicopter.
But I crashed in
He
a
wasn't
helicopter.
flying it.
What was that? How did that happen?
It was kind of funny because it was the time when he was with the Admiral, and they were going from the ship to the, where were you going? And you had all the Admiral's bags
But I wasn't in the airplane.
yes, you were. The bags went floating off into
Oh,
the
you're
water,
right.
and you were holding
That's
them up
true.
with your feet.
Oh, yeah.
What's the details
Sorry
of
about
that?
that.
I forget where you were going, but
Had to be going to the Philippines
and you
because
know,
the carrier was on station.
bring a lot of goodies back. And this was the Admiral's bag in the water. He couldn't afford to let that thing sink. But that was it.
But, I mean, you never came back, like, to the carrier, and when there's high seas, or, I mean, things were a lot tougher than normal, let's put it that way.
Actually, because of the location where you got your ships and so forth, they're relatively close to the land, and you got land above us up with China and all that and so forth. And it basically, the water was pretty sound. We didn't.
Well, one time you did have to land in Saigon, or where did you went someplace else?
No, just down to the Marine base
Because you couldn't land on the ship.
because we couldn't land on the ship.
You were in another country, though.
Yeah, but that was a problem. That wasn't a big deal
Well,
and so forth.
not a big incident, I guess.
The,
Times when he would throw in the towel and want to give up, probably a lot. But you couldn't.
obviously it passes through your mind, but I don't think I ever decided that.
He never told me any.
Did you ever get fed up with the higher-ups?
Sure,
Mhm.
you're supposed to. No, I'm serious. And coming, the fighter community is a real situation. The people that have been around the fighter pilot world, and there's a difference between the way people fly in the fighter world and those that are attacked.
Well, he's talking about the leadership, though. Of the leadership
Well, I'm just talking
of
about the
senior
way
officers.
people function and so forth. And
Well, he said, did you ever get,
and there was good
Okay.
camaraderie. There was good camaraderie between both of them, and also tremendous respect between them. There's no saying that we were any better. We just said this is what we were.
I guess what I'm getting at is, you're looking, and like you were talking about, they're sending missions from Hawaii or something. You see how things could be so much better. Did you ever say, well, I've had enough of this, I'm not going back next time and put up with all this kind of stuff, or
No, I don't think so. But it does. It's like any other place because all carriers are not the same, and people have a lot of people that are not any good and so forth. You got a whole lot of people out there doing dangerous jobs and so forth and so on.
I think you always make do with the situation you're in.
But since we knew we were better than anybody else, they're not going to hurt us, right?
Right. Okay, so now you're retired from the Navy, and what years were you back in the War College, Naval War College?
It's 68 and 69.
Was it?
That sounds about right.
Mhm.
And okay, so and so you've got how much schooling do you have by the time you get out? Time you retire?
One basic degree.
Okay.
No, we got a master's.
He
He has
degree.
more
We got
degrees
that.
than anybody we know. He has 2
Yeah.
masters, a bachelor's, and a doctorate.
Wow. But you got all that In the Navy or?
No, no, no.
No,
Oh,
no, no.
okay. No, I know.
The PhD was a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so did you go back to school then when you got out of the Navy, convention?
Not just to do school only, though, just to do it, the master's degrees are relatively simple, as you well know, not major things. PhD was at San Diego, at the University of San Diego.
Now, soon after he retired, though, he taught for a short while at a little Catholic school down in Imperial Beach, and I don't even think that was a whole year, and pretty soon there was a little.
It was a year.
It was something like that. But anyway, a job opened up as principal of St. Rita's in San Diego, a little Catholic school,
Tough area.
which he took, and at the same time went back to school to get another master's. That was his second master's. I guess that was in education. And that worked out so well, and he was an excellent principal there, that he said he was going to go on and get his doctorate. So he took a year off and studied for that doctorate.
At USD?
At yes. No, University, San Diego. The Catholic University.
Yeah.
Hill. Yeah.
I had
He
a
got-
friend that was a golf coach there for a while.
Yeah. The second master's was at San Diego State.
No, the second was.
And I think you did the master's while you were principal, too.
Yep.
A lot of doing double
Mhm.
time.
And when did he convert?
Oh, a long time ago.
When we were married 20 years.
Still in the Navy?
No, let's see, no, because that was 80, and you got out in 75.
Oh, okay. So-
I had just really been in the habit of having my prayer time every day, and I was praying that we could do something really special for our 20th anniversary coming up. And we had bought a engine rebuilding business. We forgot about that period of time.
It was a bad period.
Yeah, it was,
What-
anyway.
What was
A
it?
bad period.
Volkswagen engine rebuilding.
Oh, rebuilding.
Looking
and-
for a job and looking for a little company to run and so
Turned
forth
out to
and
be
so
a bad
What
business.
did you know about rebuilding Volkswagen engines?
Nothing.
Well, if a fighter pilot can't make better can't make Volkswagen engines, you're really in bad shape. I got out of my hair.
Yeah.
Well, I lost my train of thought. Why did I mention that?
Oh, when you.
Converted, yeah.
Convert, yeah.
And anyway, so I said, well, we need to do something. Let's take a trip. Let's do something for our anniversary coming up. And this was in the fall of the year, and our anniversary was in January. And so he said, there just isn't enough, money, time, or anything to be taking a trip right now. We were strapped with a new business and all of that. And so I just gave it to the Lord and said, I would really like to have something to mark this anniversary because it's a special one. And a day later, out of the clear blue sky, after dinner, he was reading the paper and I sat down. And he dropped the paper and he said, honey, I think it's about time I joined the Catholic Church. And I just melted into tears because if that's not something special to mark your 20th anniversary, I don't know what is. And soon after that, we had a wonderful priest at the time at St. James, and he had made the arrangements. Of course, he was already baptized. He'd already been teaching Bible study to Catholics in our home, and everybody thought he was Catholic except he didn't receive communion. And
Well, somebody had to teach those people how to read the Bible.
Did you go to church with her? Did he go with you?
Sure.
He did, yeah. He was very supportive and.
And the social group and all that sort of stuff. It was a good life. It was a good church.
Yes, we were really active in Marriage Encounter and RCIA and
So
everything.
they have so much going on,
They do.
that's where we go when we visit our daughter, and really a nice church.
Mhm.
So after you finished your schooling, then did you still teach, or were you still principal
but-
and stuff like that?
Well, I started the doctorate, and of course I'm getting a little bit old and so forth. And somebody said, "Wayne, what are you going to do that for?" And I said, "I want one," because my family wanted my dad. That's a whole part of my family story back behind that and so forth.
His father and his brother.
And so
He was probably the motivator for our son-in-law to go back to school and got his doctorate after he and Our oldest daughter was married, which today is their 24th anniversary. Hard to believe it. 24 years.
So did you get your doctorate then?
Did.
And that, what year was that?
Ask it again.
That was,
What year was that?
let's see, what year was that? Gee whiz, you know, we ought to look at that. 84, 83, 84, somewhere in there.
I guess so, that's about right.
Mhm.
And then, did you use that, your doctorate for?
I went over to, we decided, I wanted to be an administrator at that time, but if you're an old military guy and so forth and really don't have any teaching experience to say, well, you're gonna, so forth, and so you can't, it's difficult to take charge of a school. And you can't walk in and do it, and San Diego's got a tremendous number of people and so forth, so we
In
picked
the public
that
sector.
public sector, so we came over here. And I took a teaching job at down in that end of the valley where they would have more in demand of people that they needed. So I went down and took a math teaching job.
At high school?
No, and this one was
It was in middle school.
middle school.
Which one was it? Do you know?
Oh, I don't remember. So forth. And did that for 1 year.
Bobby Duke.
And
Bobby Duke Middle School.
that's what it was, you're right. But for start the next year, walked in and I was looking for an administrator job somewhere in the district and so forth.
He would have been perfectly happy to be vice principal, you know, quietly.
And so the high school needed an assistant principal right before the season, right before the school started for the year.
Coachella Valley High School.
Coachella?
The Arabs.
So I took that job and went over there. And we went about, 4 months? And the principal said, go away.
Principal went away.
That's what I mean.
They
I'm sorry,
needed an
principal.
interim principal, so he moved into
So I
that
took the
position.
job as a principal.
Oh.
That was,
And it was the
turn that school around.
easiest management job I'd ever had in my life.
Really?
2,000 kids and
Yeah.
Hispanic, 98% and so forth.
Mhm.
It was good, and had good staff and so forth. But this, we're getting off, this district was going broke.
Mhm.
And they brought in a
Superintendent.
Yeah, they brought in a superintendent who was not a superintendent. He was some staff guy out of,
Sacramento.
yeah, I came back and he had some kind of idiot things to do. And I said, no, I'm not gonna play those games. We had some improvement going in that high school. It was where, and the teachers were happy, everybody, anyway.
Well, you quit because the pressures were not worth it.
Well, you don't,
It's not
I
done.
was too old and so forth and
Is
so
that
forth.
Desert Sands School District? Desert Sands School District?
No, Desert Sands is up from that.
That's not Desert Sands School? Coachella? Huh? High school? Maybe
I guess
not.
you're right.
Thought it was.
No, I don't think so.
What other school district?
I don't know what it was. I mean, I don't remember what the name of it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far down that goes. I know Desert Sands is Palm Desert.
Yes, it is. I'm not sure.
Well, Palm
either.
Desert's too high. Too
Yeah.
much up.
Well, I know that, but I'm trying to think of India, if India's in that Desert Sands.
No, well, I don't know, it may well be, because it's a different
Yeah.
district.
Right, oh, okay.
I just don't remember the name.
So when did you
don't either.
leave there? Then what year would that have been? That you-
96.
And so you were where were you living at that time?
In La Quinta, where we live now.
Oh, okay. Where do you live in La Quinta?
It's called Duna La Quinta. It's on the Dunes Golf Course.
Mhm.
50th and Washington.
Yeah, I know where the Dunes is.
Mhm.
I live at Mission Hills, and we used to,
Where do you live?
at Mission Hills Country Club.
Other
Here in
direction.
Rancho Mirage.
Nice place.
I used to play down to Dunes. Landmark had the Dunes
Right.
and down there and they had Mission Hills too years
Mhm.
ago. And so.
And how good are you?
Oh, about 10, I guess. So.
If you played 2 or 3 times more, how many days a week do you play a week?
I don't play at all, hardly. Play in the summertime. I'm playing mostly tennis. And do this, so I don't have time for golf like I used to. So.
Yeah.
We have grass courts over at Mission Hill, so I love play singles on the grass a couple times a week.
That's nice.
A little easier on the body.
Yeah, lots. Yeah. Do you guys still play tennis?
No. No, I got bad elbows, and he ended up with a bad back, and so we walk, and he goes to the gym and things like that for exercise.
Yeah. What gym do you go to?
Oh, just the little La Quinta gym that they have at the Boys and Girls Club,
Oh, that's nice.
just down the street from us.
My wife and I started taking yoga and Pilates and stuff like
That's
that
wonderful.
about 3 years. So that's why I just came from a yoga class. So I do that 4 or 5 times a week.
Good.
And we belong to 24 Hour Fitness. It's here in Cathedral City, but they just built one off of Jackson
Uh-huh.
down there, and they have a big basketball court. So I used to play basketball all the time. So I go down there a couple times a week and play a little basketball after I work out.
He used to do that, pick up a game after work, and one day he came home in his uniform with a front tooth missing. A really good dentist fixed that for him the next day.
Yeah, well, that can happen. So then after that, did you have any other jobs or anything after you left you pretty much retired then?
He has always taught Bible study, and I've always had a prayer group. And
So do you go to St. Francis?
We did a lot of volunteer work, and we helped to build the Martha's Kitchen and Village, the new shelter.
That was a good piece of work. That was happening. That was happening coming over here about the same time I quit work at school.
We
so
did
I had
fundraising.
some time to
Did you?
help Father Joe's program.
Yeah,
Of course, we knew Father Joe from San Diego, and so we helped with that connection, because and that's part of his villages now. But we did fundraising, and I set up the thrift store for them, and got the manager and all that. That was a lot of years ago, though. Well, in the 90s, in the late 90s, and until we got burned out.
Yeah, well, yeah, that can happen. So what do you guys do for these
Fun and
days?
games?
Fun and games, yeah.
We stay very active socially. We have a lot of friends, and of course they're pretty much, circulating, or as a result of our going to St. Francis. I paint with watercolors, and so I keep active in that and go to various shows. I just did one at Trilogy.
I'm fighting the fight. I'm fighting the fight of a disease.
What's that?
Brain.
Oh.
No, I'm serious. Alzheimer's.
Well, you couldn't tell by me, that's for sure.
Well, if you couldn't tell, we want to go back and start this all over again.
Do you know Pablo Benavides? He's at St. Francis, what do you call him? Not the priest, but the priest
the
helper.
deacon.
The deacon, yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah,
He
his
hasn't been around
daughter
much.
his daughter works for me. And
Oh, really?
we were at St. Louis. I
Yeah.
was head of the lectors there for many years.
Oh,
and
were you?
She was a little girl, and I had her as a lector. And then when she grew up, she started working for me, and her sister does too. I got 2 of Pablo's girls working in our office.
Uh-huh. He hasn't been there too long, and he's been ill.
He has
So
been,
we
yeah.
haven't seen too
Yeah,
much
he
of
had
him.
a hernia operation, I think, a couple of them. Yeah.
Mhm.
Couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Because the first one, I don't know, something went wrong or something. He had to
Mhm.
something like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And do you see your kids a lot?
A lot. We have a daughter, husband, and grandson. Our first grandson that lives in the desert, about 4 miles from us, and then our youngest daughter doesn't live far, about an hour and a half drive. So
Yeah.
we're on the phone or back and forth a lot.
Do much traveling or?
Not anymore. There's always a family reunion for both of our families during the summer months, so we try to get out of here. And we go to San Diego a lot still. Still have a lot of friends there that we see, and we have a lot of visitors, to come visit us. So that's
Sure.
always fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It sounds like you guys got a really good life going, and
we do.
that's wonderful. I kind of wish I would have had one of the guys that does interviews with me here. He was a marine aviator in Vietnam, pretty much same time you were, and
You got the worst end of it.
well, and he had I think he was a CO, had a group for a while too, because I think a lot of what you're talking about, I haven't interviewed him. I should do that, but we talk about what he did and stuff. I'd like to maybe put him in touch with you if you don't mind sometime. I'm sure he
Love
would
to.
enjoy talking to you. Yeah.
Mhm.
And, I guess we're maybe getting ready to wrap it up. Any final thoughts from either of you before we do?
I think it's been fun. Very pleasant is a better way, better way to put it in place.
Actually, if you give them a glass of wine and get them to start talking about some of those war stories, it can be very entertaining.
How do you like your work up here?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I do. If you're
You
looking
do?
for something to do, we'd love to have you around here.
Yeah, he volunteers on, Thursday and Saturday mornings here.
Oh, you are?
Mhm.
Oh, gosh, well, shucks.
Yes.
I'll be
I
darned.
like
I'll have
to
look
deal
you
with
up.
people, though,
Yeah,
literally,
sure. Well, obviously, that's what you've done all your life, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I usually ask a lot of young people going into harm's way these days, what kind of advice would you have to a young person that may be facing some of the dangers that you did?
He'd say, watch your 6 o'clock. And what else would you say?
Well, I bumped into a lot of guys, I bumped with kids and so forth, and take them down and sit them down and talk to them and so forth and so on.
People that come to you for advice.
And I think it's much more difficult. I think it's getting worse. And I think the community and I think the families are having a more difficult time and so forth. I think we're in for a tough period. I don't know how tough it's going to be and so forth, or whether it's going to be, or all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to say what's going to happen, but it appears to me that it's going to be worse. But that's sort of a pessimistic about that. But shoot, I would just go get somebody and get the government to give me some money. There has to be an easy way to get some money from the government.
Seems like
That-
yeah, right. And what's happened here lately? Yeah.
Let's go found some answer, some business here. We really need this help and so forth. Give us some money.
I'll have to send you an email. I don't know if I have your email address. Anyway, I got a funny email about a little bit about that. Well, if you're gonna, but it's just funny. I'll send it to you, and you'll enjoy it. I think. Yeah. Okay. Evie, how about you?
Final words, I think faith plays a major part, and you have to believe, in my case, you have to believe in God. I don't know how people make it through otherwise. If you don't have faith, it's hard to have courage. And I just continuously, we both have relied on our faith and raised our kids that way. And as a result, we have 3 very good Christian kids today. All go to church and
That's wonderful.
good believers.
Wayne, thank you for your service to our country. Thanks for coming and joining us.
When are you
Evie,
out here?
thanks for bringing him along. I just, whenever I need to be. I do
Whenever
most
you-
of my work at my home because I do the editing on these things. I'll make a DVD for you and let me know if you want extra ones. I'll make extras and just stuff like that. And I do all the audio visual stuff here for the library too, and other stuff too. And I don't know if you saw downstairs the Veterans History display of the Army hangar. It's a touch screen where I've taken 25 of these interviews and added combat footage and stuff to it, and people can go and if you want to see a B-17 pilot, see what, in Europe, you touch this and it's about 10
Wow.
minutes of stuff. So I'll have to show you some of this stuff before we leave today too.
I've been trying to
that's-
talk to the people that we take up make a program to have where you can take people out front and give them look-see and have your own paperwork to deal with, and the airplanes that we got out front.
Yeah, oh, that would be
Just-
good,
just-
yeah.
just have
It'd be
something
nice
extra.
if they had, like they do inside a stairway or something, you go up and kind of look into the
Yeah.
cockpit and stuff, that'd be good, yeah. Okay, I will shut this down and put this on the way
You're
here.
so good at this, Mike.